Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here with a video featuring some Mama Elephant stamps as well as a Your Next stamp background stamp. So today I wanted to share some different skin color combinations that I've been working with. I've said it many times recently. I've been trying to work on using some different skin tones. I donate a lot of my cards, and I want the skin tones of the children on the cards to represent a wide variety of children because the cards will go to a wide variety of children. So I thought that this instance might be a good time to share some of the color combinations that I've been trying, and maybe they'll be helpful to you if you're trying to find some different skin or hair combinations. So I have E19, 15, and 13 for this first little girl. I'm going to color each character 2 times, and I'm going to follow some certain patterns. So I'm always going to make the shadows at the sides of their face, and this is so that their face has a rounded look. These are very simple stamps from Mama Elephant. There's not a lot of space to color. There's not even a lot of skin. And one of the reasons I wanted to share with how I color this is I tend to color a lot of smaller images, and sometimes the color combinations that are recommended for skin work well on large images but not as well on small images, so I've had to make certain adjustments. There's just not as much room to do blending, and so I work with other colors than might be recommended in different tutorials. And I'm also trying to experiment with what hair color combinations I like with what skin color combinations. So that last girl there was E57, 23, and 25. I've also realized that as I color skin tones more often, I need to start refilling some of these markers. So some of them I was having a little bit of trouble blending with, as I just needed to get a little bit more ink in them. And I've recently switched to using a scale to help me refill my inks and weigh the markers as opposed to trying to guess how much to put in there. So I might share a video on that in the future, as I saw that there are a lot of sites that there are a few sites that explain how to do that, but I didn't see any videos on it. So, as I get a little bit better at that, I might share that as well. So I'm using E35, 33, and 31. I like that color combination a lot. I think it's it's a skin tone that can read a lot of different ways, and I am not trying to replicate any particular person or race per se when I lay down my skin colors. I'm just kind of trying to make a bunch of different skin tones. I'm basically just trying to make 4 different skin tones in this instance because there are 4 different kiddos. And I love this stamp set because it's a superhero stamp set, but there are 3 girls. And I think, a lot of times we wind up going too much into one direction or the other. Like we think, boys have to have superheroes and pirates and race cars, and girls have to have princesses and unicorns and butterflies. And I like the stamp sets that allow you to kind of work a little bit more in the in-between. And so this stamp set's going to create a lot of great cards for girls, but using these superheroes. And that last skin tone, I guess the sort of like the lightest skin tone there, it was E50, E11, and E00. And with all of them, I laid in the darkest color first, and I blended out to the lighter color. Here, as I color their hair, even though there's not a lot of detail in these stamps, and there's really very little detail at all in their hair, I'm going to try to add just a bit of it. So I'm using W3, W5, and E89. I hope that even though the marker caps are a little bit blurry, that is helpful to you guys to kind of see them up there. And I'm trying to use a flicking motion so that it looks like there are strands of hair. But in order to get the flicking look of strands, it's important to let the layers dry a bit in between, because if you go right in with your next color, it blends out much more. And in this instance, you're actually not wanting it to blend as much. You're not wanting to create a really smooth shift from one color to another. Instead, you do want some distinctive flicks. So because I was coloring on camera, I probably didn't wait as long as I might otherwise. I might have gone and colored a different part of the image, but if you put in your darkest flicks, let it dry, and then put in your medium flicks and then to your light, I think that generally gives the best result of just a little bit of texture in the hair on these, again, pretty simple small images. The hair is actually bigger than the skin color, so you have a little bit more room to work with, and so I'm trying to do that here. I also find that you can go back at the end, so once you've went to work on a different image and it's really dry, going in with your darkest color and adding a few more flicks can be helpful and add a little bit more dimension to their hair. I'm generally trying to add the shadows where like the part in the hair might be, but for the two little girls that don't really have parts, I'm just putting the shadow at the top. That might not make a lot of sense. I mean, because basically I'm creating a light source as being like smack dab in their face, but that actually will kind of work when you see the whole card. And also, I'm not creating an entire scene here. I am just creating these little kids, like they won't be in, a city where there's clearly a sun or something like that. So it doesn't really matter where the shadows are. There are a lot of talented YouTubers who will share more about making realistic shadows and making scenes. Sandy Alnock and Kelly Latavola are two amazing Copic artists that I like to watch. It's just not necessarily my style to incorporate those kind of things all the time. I can and I do sometimes. It's just, in this case, that's not what I'm going for. I'm just having fun coloring this stamp set. It's a stamp set that I've had for a long time and I really like, but I just haven't used very often, and I haven't used in probably years. So I wanted to pull it out again, get a bit more use out of it, and I just stamped 8 of these little characters because I knew that I could use my scan and cut to cut them out, and I would be able to, just have fun coloring for a long time. And if I came up with a color combination, I would get 2 characters out of it. Or, if I came up with a way that I liked of coloring them, I could use that color combination throughout. So like I'm going to use the same few colors to color all of their outfits because that saves me time versus trying to complete a card from one single image. I have what I believe is E49, but it might be 79, and I will try to leave a clue down. It's definitely a 7, so I think it's E79 or 78. I'll try to leave that in the video description as well. And then I'm using W9 for an even darker tone, and I'm just kind of right now blending between those 2 colors because I want the hair to look mostly black, but not quite be black. And that was sort of inspired by some different people I know that they have hair that you'd almost call, like, at first you think, oh, that's black hair, but really it's just a really dark brown. And so I wanted to pull that in as well, as I've been having a little bit of trouble coming up with a good black color for hair. So my cards are going to all be the same. I created 8 top fold note cards, A2 size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. You double that and you fold it. And then I did the top fold. Just it kind of suited my fancy lately. I've been making a lot of top fold cards, but I'm using this star splatter stamp from Your Next Stamp, and that might not be the official name. Everything will be linked in the video description below. And I'm using my Distress Oxide inks to stamp. And the reason for that is just they actually give really awesome results. They stamp really, really well because of that pigment quality, and they're bright and vivid colors. But you could use whatever inks work for you. That's the fossilized amber. And it goes well with the colors that I chose to, basically the yellow colors that I picked to color in all their outfits. And again, I use the same reds, yellows, and blues on each little kid. I just put it in different combinations for each child to mix it up a bit. And I'm also going to use the sentiment from the superhero stamp set that says, I think you're super duper in every way. I just think that's a great encouraging sentiment. And once I have the star stamped and the sentiment stamped, I'm just going to pop up my little superhero with some really thin foam tape. And as you see, I'm going to use a couple of different colors for the stars. I have the peacock feathers, and I think that's candied apple. Again, I'll try to link everything, but it just created a fun place to put these images that I enjoyed coloring. And I hope that some of these tips on some different skin and hair combinations were helpful to you, and you got to see a fun way to create a bunch of cards at one time while enjoying coloring. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafting tutorials, be sure to subscribe to my channel. As mentioned before, I will leave links to the products that I used in the video description below. I'm also going to leave you a link to Cat Scrappiness because she's running a 20% off spring sale, and that might be of interest to some of you. I have shared a few cards featuring some of the items in the past, even though this isn't. Thanks for watching. Bye.